So I just want to let everybody know, American Airlines chose not to participate in Robin's travel schedule yesterday. So she got delayed coming back into Charlotte. So you're stuck with just me this morning. She's either trying to be en route or is en route, or who knows exactly where she is. But anyway, she's working her way back towards Charlotte. So you've got me today. What I wanted to do, if you remember last week, there's one of the reports I shared with you guys from MLS, one of the market reports. I want to share the other one today. I want to kind of go over that. And then I pulled some reports from the SAM module where, there's some key things for us to kind of take a quick look at. And of course, I just saved these as PDFs for the purposes of this call. But yeah, we'll go over that stuff as well. So I'm going to see here, you got me stuck with Zoom and all the great things today. So I'm just going to see if you guys can see what I'm going to share here. Let's see, can you see this report that says inventory counts report? Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, great, awesome. So this one worked. All right, so this is the other report I look at a lot. The other one was like a trend report last week that gave us a lot of breakdown in data. Again, for the purposes of this one this week, I looked at Mecklenburg County. I wanted single family. And so far, month to date, the month of June. All right, so when I pulled this probably an hour ago. So from June 1 through an hour ago, this is the information that kind of pulls up, and this is what we see. We see the amount of active listings so far. We have 816 active. Closed, we've already closed 709 properties so far this month. We have 95 and 53. I'm sorry, we have 95 in the coming soon. No show category. We have 53 in the expired category. We have 105 that are temporarily off the market. And then we have in the two categories of under contract, both the show and no show, we have, almost another, 750, 760 properties there. We have 136 withdrawn. So our activity level month to date in Mecklenburg County for single family or for residential properties is 2,671 total units. And then you can see the total value of all of those units collectively, including the ones that, didn't find success in the market, which are the withdrawals and the expireds. You can see the average prices on those, every category, the average days on market. This is just a really quick look. And it's a great report again. You know me, I like the simple reports, the one pager that I can create a PDF such as this, easy to send out, easy to have information, easy to present, tells us a lot of information, right? So here's one of the things I like to look at this one is, let's talk about activity for the month of June. So we know we've got 816 properties that are currently active, and we have another almost 100 that are coming on the market soon, right? So there's roughly about 911 properties that either between the coming soon or that are currently active could be available for us to go show buyers. And sure, we could do the under contract show category as well. But I just want to kind of take a look at this kind of activity compared to the closed activity month to date. The one thing I've been seeing over about the last probably 3 months, for a while, actually, for almost probably about 15, 16 months since I've been looking at this, with the exception of the last 3 months, usually we see the closed that's been greater than the active in terms of units. We're still pretty close here. We're within 100, right? So we're not seeing like a huge accumulation of inventory as it's known. And then the other thing I want to look at down here is what is currently under contract. So the current activity of buyers. And when I look at this and I go, okay, we've got roughly 300 here and another 460 here. So that's what, 750 some properties that are currently under contract, along with 709 that are closed. It's almost like we're putting under contract the amount of properties that are available in the market. So what this tells me is a little bit of like the health of the market. How is it reacting? How are buyers, looking at the inventory that's out there? If we looked at this number on the under contract, and let's say we only had 200, but up here we had 800 available properties. That's a telling sign that, okay, something's up, right? Either buyers simply aren't interested at all, which could be driven by, for example, interest rates. They may not like the prices, the areas, the type of house. There's a lot of other things that can go into it. But we're seeing a pretty healthy, relationship here between the amount of properties we're putting under contract to the amount that are available to us. And it's right in line with what we're seeing in terms of the closed units so far. And of course, we know that typically beginning of the month may not be as strong for closings as we tend to see at the end of the month. This is just a quick little, 15, 16 day look at this, a couple of weeks for what tends to be a pretty busy month for us in the industry and the market. All right, so those are some of the things that I wanted to cover on this one pager here. Does anybody have any thoughts, comments, questions around this? Anybody use this report for anything in your business world currently? All right, let's move on. So the next ones are going to be, these are going to be some of the things I got out of the SAM report this morning. This one was May. I wanted May average sale prices. Again, from Mecklenburg County, these are single family homes. The data is down here. It tells you it's traditional. There's no distressed properties in here, no short sales, foreclosures, anything like that. This is resale only, not new construction, single family, and again, for Mecklenburg County. And I wanted May, but I wanted May over the last 3 years. So this is May of this year. The average close price, again, for that category of properties in Mecklenburg, a little over 700,000. Last May, it was 683. So we've seen about a 2.5% increase in the average sale price this May versus last May. And of course, we go back to May of 2023, the average price was 636. All right, are you guys keeping an eye on any kind of like stats or anything from SAM at all? And if so, what are you looking at and how are you using it in your business? How is it helping you convert business? How is it helping you price properties, seller or buyer side? How are you maybe strengthening your pipeline of future people just because you're giving them a different perspective or maybe a reality perspective? How are you guys using this?
Chip, we use these when we use 2 or 3 of these reports for Mecklenburg and the outlying areas that we work in to set proper perspective with our listings as to what's really happening and where pricing should be.
And it's also, Chip, the seeing the difference in our business kind of covers a wider swath of territory just because we focus on the expireds and withdrawals. But what we're also seeing is that certain counties, not all counties are following the same trend. So it helps us to catch up on some trends in counties that may not show up in the overall.
Well, that's what I like about these. I tend to pull broad, if you will, in this case, like Mecklenburg County. For the purposes of what we're talking about, I want to keep it to that level. Can you bring this down to other levels? Can you bring it down to city level, zip code level? Yeah, you can do whatever you kind of want to do for these type of reports to really kind of give you a micro kind of view of what's happening in the areas. I just want us to have a perspective of our own and a starting place. So I appreciate what you guys are saying because I'm pretty sure if you looked at some areas, if you go like south of Rock Hill or if you go north of like Mooresville, you're going to see a much different market, aren't you? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And they help.
All right, let's look at
they help set expectations for the client too.
Yeah, I love that, Rob. It sets expectation in the client relationship. A lot of times we can use this stuff to move us forward to get closer to the client relationship. In other words, we're educating people in a way that helps us with conversion and from a lead to a client. But then once we're moving into that client relationship, It's about setting the right expectation about what the market's really doing. And I love that. And actually, Rob, a couple of these will kind of carry into that even more. So this next one that I pulled up, again, same criteria, Mecklenburg, all the things I mentioned before. This one is the amount of new listings coming on the market. So if we looked at May of 23, we had 972. May of last year, there was a 28% increase to 1,240 new listings hitting the market. This year, it's a 16% increase over May of last year at 1,442. So if you really think about it, is listing activity picking up year over year over year? Yes, it is. So first of all, I want us now to see this as our own perspective. When we're out there going, gosh, it's really tight. Nobody really wants to list their house. I'm really struggling to get listings, whatever it is. First of all, let's have our own kind of market perspective around this. Are the opportunities increasing year over year in terms of new listings coming on the market? And then, of course, this is the month of May. The answer is yes. So this goes back then to say, if we're not getting our unfair share of the listings in the market, what is it we can do to educate people about how the market's performing, right? And so this one we could use again to help convert leads into client relationships, but this one I thought was really important just for our own kind of knowledge on the front end. All right, let's go on to the next one. I think I pulled 4 or 5 of these. So this next one is average days on market. And so Rob, you mentioned client perspective. I think this one's a pretty good idea, or client expectation rather. This would set a pretty good expectation if you showed this at listing appointments, so that you were setting the expectation with the seller that the average days on market May of this year is 23. It's a 21% increase over May of last year, which it was 19 days. But last year was a little bit of a decline from May of 23 when it was 21 days. So imagine if you had this really quickly in a listing appointment and you're telling the seller, here's what not to expect, or here's how the market's performing, or this is what we're currently seeing with, the amount of days it's taking to get a property under contract. This really goes a long way of getting the seller to see things a little bit differently, right? And again, we can pull this information if we wanted to bring it down into a different type of housing, a different market, a smaller sampling, whether it's again a neighborhood, a city, a zip code, we have the opportunity to do that as well. All right, so that was that one. And I think the final one I had here, months of supply of homes for sale. This is going to take us back, and I wanted this one in this line chart here, just for us to look at, because this goes back to 2022, where we see over here, it was actually 0.4 months of inventory, which of course is obviously less than a month. But we go over here to where we are today, and we see we're at, I think this one came out at 2.4 months of inventory. This went through May of this year. So here's a little quick test. Are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market?
We're in a seller's market with an
Sellers.
asterisk.
I'm sorry, I say that last part, Jim.
I said we're in a seller's market with an asterisk.
We are in a seller's market with an asterisk. And what is the asterisk?
It's that homes have to be priced properly, and that there's a there's a slowing down of we're getting back to where we were before COVID.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? We're moving back to what felt like a little bit more of a normal market prior to COVID, which we're talking about, what, 5-6 years ago now. Well, how many months of inventory typically would say that we're a balanced market, kind of between seller and buyer?
6.
6 months. So we're still at 2.4. Are we inching closer towards a potential buyer's market? Maybe. We've got to see, because here's the thing, if I go back here and look at this, I can't remember exactly what this particular month was here, but look, we saw a decline, didn't we? the second half of last year, we started to see a decline in terms of the available inventory in the market. So actually, we moved deeper into a seller's market, and then here we go, trending back up again. Well, we're not even at 3 months of inventory, guys. Not even at 3 months. Now, here's what I will tell you. These lines, this is an important one for us to keep an eye on. Here's why. These lines can move really quickly. If you recall last week, I was talking about the pendulum effect. That pendulum swings, and there's a bit of a pause on one side before it starts downward and momentum is gained and then speeds up near the bottom, right? The pendulum will be really quick in here. If we bring that back into like the correlation of the real estate market and talking about months of supply, that pendulum at the bottom, that's your balanced market. But as you can tell by the pendulum effect, we move so quickly through it, we move really quickly from a seller's market to a buyer's market, or from a buyer's market to a seller's market. So this is why it's important that we keep an eye on all of this type of information. I want to make certain the key things we've covered so far. I want to know, what is the gap between the amount of existing properties for sale and the amount of properties that are under contract. I want to know what that gap looks like. Is it widening? Because if it's widening, in other words, we're putting fewer under contract and bringing more to the market. Here's what that's telling me. Inventory is increasing. And if inventory is increasing, we're going to see this number go up. We're going to see this chart increase. The months of supply of homes for sale. That's number one. The other impact to this, not only are we talking about this simply properties available for sale versus those under contract, but I also do want to keep an eye on the amount of properties we're closing and actually selling. Because if that number starts ticking down, I'm going to expect that my future pace pendings are going to start going down as well. That's going to start impacting this kind of a chart for us, right? We're going to see that once the supply increase. Okay, then I do want to keep an eye on days on market. Even those properties that are priced right, that are, condition is great, location is great, but just for some reason, the buyers are just slow to kind of move forward and actually, find the desire to go under contract. In those cases, if it starts taking longer, we can see the other things that we've already talked about. We can start seeing that impact as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that there are fewer buyers. Buyers might just be taking longer to make their decisions. Okay, that's fine. I just need to understand the relationship between all of this. And if buyers are going to take a little bit longer to make their decision, it means properties might be on the market a little bit longer. And if they're going to be on the market a little bit longer, all the things I mentioned before will come into play as well, right? So that's an important one for us to know. And then what was the, go back here real quick. It's the first one. Oh, the average sale price. So here's the thing that kind of has been really a little different, because typically we think supply of homes for sale are months of supply. We tend to think by the law of supply and demand that if supply is increasing and demand is waning a little bit or slowing down, what tends to happen to price is we start seeing prices decline. Yet this year so far, we have seen an increase of about 2.5% year to date through May of the average sale price. So here's the thing, there's not enough slowdown in the market yet where we're seeing the pressure per se on a declining value. Are we seeing slower appreciation? Yes. We're seeing slower appreciation. So it goes back to what Jim mentioned earlier. We're in a critical, this is the asterisk of the market, right? That, yeah, we're in a seller's market, and here's the important things you need to understand as a seller. We're seeing imagine if you just pulled these things we had today, bring all of these to a listing appointment. I guarantee you're going to shine, heads and shoulders above your competitors that seller might also be speaking with, because you're bringing real information and it shows you understand how the market works, which helps them position correctly in the market so they can go get what they want to get when they want to have it, right? This stuff in the days on market is all about timing. timing typically takes us back to motivation with buyers and sellers. That's why it's really important. So you know, tell me what's the ideal time frame you would love to see. Here's a question I asked sellers today. If you could pick your date of when you wanted to close, what's your ideal date? And let them tell you, because usually they're going to tie it back to the reason why it's most important for them. That usually will be tied to the easiest time or the one that makes the most sense, that causes them the least amount of issues, let's say, maybe a dual move or selling a house here, maybe they're moving out of state. If they give you their ideal date, now you can start positioning them into the market with information. Versus just simply telling them, well, you know, here's how it's probably going to go. Show them how it's going to go. This gives you guys the ability to kind of start forecasting and predicting rather than reacting to what you see in the market. It allows you to be professionals. It allows you to be leaders and lead people through a process when times are changing. That's when people feel the most amount of anxiety, right? And they look for people that have answers. They look for people that have the right plans. They look for people that have the right, correct information that allows them to go get what they want to get when they want to get it. All right, I've given you a lot of stuff. There's a lot of data in here. What are your thoughts, comments, questions, or ahas so far? And or how are you using this? I think it's important to share if you are using this, how and what are you seeing by using it? How is it helping you be better at your job?
Hey, Chip, it's Sharon. I just think these reports, as we say, you know, we shouldn't be really telling our clients. We should be showing them. And when you have these reports, like you said, it makes you look like a professional. Not only that, it gets the conversion that you need to price it right, make sure it looks good going out, because the data speaks. You know, we can speak, they don't listen, but if they look at these reports, it's an easier conversion.
You know, I love that, Sharon, and here's what I would say to that as well. When you present information this way, you actually show it, it's hard logically to go against it, isn't it? It's easy to go against simple words. It's hard to look at realistic, real-time information that's almost showing the path that they should be on to go again, get what they want to get. Yet they go, yeah, I know you're telling me this. However, beauty of it is, and I never want to make this about, you know, oh, especially if we move into, say, a seller client relationship. I'm not out there trying to tell everybody, well, see, I was right, you were wrong. I do want to have evidence, if you will, that makes it really a little bit more difficult for them to kind of point the finger back at me that I did something wrong or I'm not doing enough when I gave them all the information they needed on the front end. And I'm not, again, trying to deflect blame. That's not what the relationship's about. But again, it's logically, it's so hard to go against this information.
You know, Chip, it
Confused.
allows you to show up differently when you're in an appointment, and you know, it differentiates yourself from the competition. It also really brands you as the economist of you know, the local economist, which is what clients are looking for.
That's exactly what they're looking for, right? You know, I used to use one of the tools I used to use to convert expired listings is I would look at the showing data for the period of time they were on the market. The day they started, the day they expired. I'd pull up their neighborhood and boom, here it is, one pager. And I would send it to them, I would drop it off, I would call, get an appointment, drop it off and say, hey, look at this, happy to go over it later. And it would just, I'm telling you guys, like the majority of the time they would sit there and go, I wish I had known this, or I wish I had seen this, or I didn't know it was something that was available. My last agent didn't show it to me. I'm not trying to throw the agents under the bus. I'm just trying to be the pro that brings reality into the conversation. Rob, did you have something?
I was just, excuse me. Roy, I was just gonna say that, you have an, sorry.
You all right?
Yeah, something stuck there, but I think we're good now. So it gives you an opportunity to actually show the data. And then if you're showing them the comps as well, what sets your house apart from your competition? What sets your house apart from these others that are currently on the market in the same neighborhood? You know, especially when you have, you know, a house in that neighborhood that, you know, sold in 5 days and another one sold in, you know, 20 or 30, you know, this is where your house is. This is where their house was. How does yours compare?
Right. Well, you know, it's to me, I love what you guys are both saying, Jim and Rob. Thank you, Sharon as well. To me, this allows us to have more of a collaborative conversation versus one where we feel like we're in there pitching. Right? This feels a little less sales pitchy to me. Because I am the expert. I'm demonstrating my expertise of understanding the market. And in the process, when I show you information that helps you, again, see a reality. Now we're going back to the word Rob used earlier, which is expectations. And it just starts aligning everything. And the conversation feels different. I think, Jim, you said that one as well. The conversation feels different when you walk in, right? Again, I'll go back to the whole thing. This is our opportunity to do our show and tell, right? Not just tell and tell. All right, gang, any final thoughts, comments, questions, ahas?
Yeah, I had one, Chip. I was looking over the list reports and it was saying how, the job report came back really in a positive manner. What do you
Yeah.
think is going to come out with this seller's market and these mortgage rates maintaining about 6.8?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is how I look at it. A couple of things. Number one, have we seen an increase over the last 3 years, at least in the month of May, of the amount of new listings hitting the market? Yes. During that period of time, have we seen high interest rates? Higher than normal? Yeah, I'd say in the last 3 years, they've been somewhere, mid 6 to maybe 7, low 7, kind of, back and forth in that sort of a range. And yet we're seeing an increase in the amount of sellers that are willing to put their house on the market and get it sold. So I really think the demand on that one, to me, is a little pent-up demand on the seller side because of the amount of equity that's there. Because a lot of people go, you know what, the house doesn't suit my needs, but I can put the cash to better use. And even if I've got to do it in a maybe short-term period of time where I'm going to borrow money and I'm going to pay higher rate than I do now, the willingness to give that rate up, tap into the equity and put money to work is becoming a greater thing than just tied to that, COVID-based, 3%, 4% interest rate. That's my take on it. Anybody else? All right, gang, as always, I appreciate you all being here today. Hopefully next week we'll have Robin back. And anyways, make it a great week. Anything at all we can ever help with, please ask. We're here to help. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.